君が守りたいのは一体何ですか？ドラマチック RPG ルナメガ CD から。
Certain video games really have the ability to make you feel like a kid again. You know, either by filling you with childlike wonder, or evoking a grand sense of adventure. Hell, sometimes both. Out of all the video games I've ever played, very few have captured this feeling like the Lunar series. With the remasters of Lunar 1 and 2 about to come out, we thought this was the perfect time to cover the entire franchise. This will include all versions of the games because, well, there is a lot of the first game, and all the various spin-offs as well. Yeah, that does mean the infamous Dragon song is gonna get a little bit of spotlight today. I know we just dropped a very similar video over the Suikoden series, and normally we like to spread out our video types, but it's not my fault they released remasters of some of my favorite JRPGs back-to-back months. It's certainly a great time to be a classic JRPG fan. So yeah, with all that said, let's just dive into the video. But first, let's cue the intro. It does happen to feature Luna from the first Lunar game, so it'll make a nice transition. This, my friends, is a complete retrospective of the entire Lunar series.
The light is your guide.
A dream is what keeps you going.
Now is the time to shape your story. Your fate is in your hands.
Lunar, the Silver Star, was released for the Sega CD on June 26, 1992 in Japan. Hey, exactly 1 year after I was born, that's pretty cool. And in December of 1993 in North America. It was created by the company Game Arts and its subsidiary, Studio Alex, which was specifically made for this game and named after the main character. As I'm sure many of you already know, the Sega CD was not really that popular.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD?
However, with that said, Lunar itself was very popular. It was the highest selling Sega CD game in all of Japan, and the second highest in North America, only behind Sonic CD. Granted, it's not like the Sega CD had a massive library or anything, but even still, this is very impressive. Critically, it reviewed extremely well too. For those that don't know, the Sega CD was a CD-ROM add-on for the Genesis. It was kind of a failure, to be honest, because everything about it from the games of the add-on itself costed more money without really enhancing the gameplay experience. However, it did enhance the visual and audio experience. Lunar definitely took advantage of these capabilities. For 1992, these cutscenes look really good. There's a lot of them too. Many of them even have voice acting.
There you are, Alex. I've been looking all over for you. What are you doing back here again? Listen, I know you really look up to Dragon Master Dine, but this is ridiculous. If Dine were still alive today, I'm sure he'd tell you to stop dreaming about his exciting quest, get off your butt, and set out on your own fantastic adventures.
I mean, it's definitely full of 90s cheese, but for the time, it's actually pretty good.
Good morning, Alex. You're late again. Did Ramus ever find you?
Honestly, it's got just about as good a voice acting as anything on the PS1 gave us. So yeah, as you can see, the production value was a huge highlight. Lunar was not just style over substance though. The game itself had a lot going for it. The story has us playing as Alex, a young man from the small town of Berg who aspires to be like his idol, Dragon Master Dine. In the world of Lunar, the goddess Althena created 4 divine dragons to protect the planet along with herself. A Dragon Master is someone who would command the power of these dragons. The most recent Dragon Master being Dyne, who along with the other 3 members of the 4 heroes, defended Althena and saved the world years before the event of this game take place. Dyne has been missing in action ever since though. When Alex meets the White Dragon Quark and learns of his potential, a childlike dream turns reality as he sets out to become the new Dragon Master. It's a simple story, however, it's executed really well with some nice twists along the way. The characters in particular are incredibly charming, but I'll talk about them in just a bit. For now, let's talk gameplay. In most ways, Lunar plays exactly like a traditional JRPG. There are a couple aspects that set it apart though. Well, really, it's just the battle system itself. Character positioning plays a pretty big role here. Your characters actually have to run up to enemies to physically attack them, so if an enemy is too far away, you may have to spend multiple turns getting there. Or you can just attack a closer enemy that turn. This adds another layer of strategy that most turn-based systems didn't have back then, even in random encounters. On the other hand, it does also draw out random encounters a bit more, so, it's kind of a preference thing. Honestly, the same kind of goes for this version as a whole. I would say the majority of fans prefer the PS1 version, which I'll talk about shortly. However, there still are a good amount out there that do prefer this iteration. And you know what? I get it. The Sega CD version offers a totally different vibe and experience than any other version out there. If you love the other versions and have yet to play this one, I highly recommend you change that. Well, maybe don't buy it physically because inflation is a bitch right now, but there are other means to play this version if you catch my drift. Anyway, a few years later, this Silver Star would get a little facelift. Well, not a little facelift, but more like a complete makeover. This version was known as Silver Star Story Complete. The Sega Saturn version came out in 1996, however that one never left Japan. Besides the music being a little bit different, the PlayStation version that came out a couple years later is pretty much the exact same though. That version did come out in North America and is what I'm going to talk about here. Almost everything about this game has changed, from the visuals to the music to even the story. Visually, not only are the sprites and the backgrounds completely different, but the colors are much more vibrant here. Character portraits got a little update too. These are in the style of the anime FMVs, and man, we get a lot of them here. If you thought the Sega CD version had a lot of cutscenes, dude, there's like quadruple the amount here. There's also way more voice acting too. In the original version, there were only 4 or 5 characters that were voiced, but in this version, there's now 20.
Didn't you know that these woods were ridiculously dangerous for ordinary travelers? Are you lost? Or out for a picnic?
These did such a great job at immersing you into the game's world, man. I just love them. Going back to music, this changed a lot too. Almost every track is different, down to the opening theme. Silver Star Story's OST is more cheery and upbeat and jovial, whereas the Silver Star's OST is more chill and subdued. The town themes to Berg and Maribia kinda show what I'm talking about. don't know what I prefer actually, they're both great in their own ways. Silver Star's story does have Toward the Horizon and Mysterious Cave though, so those may give it the edge. Oh yeah, how could we forget Luna's Boat Song? Out of all the versions of this song, I think Jennifer Steigel's rendition on this English PlayStation version is my favorite for sure.
What will fill this emptiness inside of me? Am I to be satisfied without knowing? I wish then for a chance to see now all I need desperately is my star to come.
I hadn't heard this in so long, and it still gave me chills and made me a little teary-eyed. That's the power of music, my friends. By the way, I got a fanboy real quick, not to brag, but Jennifer Steigel actually did just follow us on Twitter a while back. Yeah, pretty cool, I know. I don't know if you watch all of our content, but if you are watching this right now, thank you for all your work. You really did an amazing job here and made this part of the game extremely memorable. Speaking of memorable, how about that cast of characters? I think they play a really big role in the game being as charming as it is. In the original Sega CD version, Alex was a silent protagonist, however in Silver Star Story Complete, he has a bit more of a personality. I think his relationship with Luna is improved because of it. Null is probably one of the earliest examples of an animal companion in a JRPG. She's like this little flying cat-like creature and adds a nice dynamic to the group with her feisty attitude. By the way, we toyed around with the idea about doing a video over animal companions in RPGs. Is that something anyone would be interested in watching? Let us know in the comments. To round out the rest of the playable characters, we have Mia, a quiet and reserved black mage, Jessica, a fiery-tempered white mage, nice flip-flopping of stereotypes there, Kyle, a womanizing, alcohol-loving bandit with a heart of gold, my personal favorite, Nash, a mage with a interesting haircut, and Ramus, a person. So Ramus leaves your party after the first few hours of the game, and I really like this. Well, not just because I don't want the dude at my party, but also because of what it represents. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Oftentimes, they're just a chapter on your journey. I wish more JRPGs would do this. Not everyone is meant to fight against a world-ending threat, and that's okay. Garl from Sea of Stars, I'm looking at you, bud. Grandia also does this really well, and of course, it too was made by Game Arts. Anyway, as far as villains go, I think Galleon is easily one of the most memorable we've ever gotten in the genre.
Welcome to the Magic Guild of Vane, Alex of Berg. I am Galleon, premier of the guild.
Awesome design, fitting voice, he just has great presence and commands your attention when on screen. I guess this is a good time to point out that Silver Star Story Complete did change the story a little bit. I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say that some stuff got taken out, even more got added in, some characters stay with you longer now, some new characters entirely are introduced, and yeah, they just changed quite a bit. I did say this version was pretty much like a different experience, right? Also, shout out to Royce. I know the Hex Girls from Scooby-Doo often get credited for putting many young kids onto goth girls, but nah son, it was Lunar for me. Speaking of changes, the North American version, by way of the company Working Designs, had even more. The difficulty has been ramped up a bit, and there's sort of a level scaling feature with bosses, and the script also has some, unique cultural changes. These are very divisive and did not sit well with everyone. Me personally, I think they're kind of charming in their own really, kind of stupid, dumb way. Product of its time for sure, but it does kind of make the nostalgia hit a little bit harder. Regardless of how you feel about their changes to the game, one thing I think we all can agree on is that their packaging of the game was truly next level. I mean, look at this shit, dude. This helped the game feel so grand and epic. The cloth map in particular really added to that spirit of adventure. It also comes included with a soundtrack and a Making of Lunar CD. The making of CD in particular is really cool. I do talk about it more in our video about 8 great JRPGs that capture the spirit of adventure, so check that one out if interested. The hardbound manual is over 100 pages long and features so much cool stuff. There's tons of art, interviews from the developers, and even a walkthrough of the first few hours of the game. Did they have to do all this? No, but they wanted to, and that's awesome. I know the changes the work and designs made may not have resonated with everyone. However, it's still very clear they had an incredible amount of passion and love for the source material. Fast forwarding to 2002, this first game would get remade again with Lunar Legend for the Game Boy Advance. This version was actually made by the company, Media Rings Corporation, and given that it's on a handheld, it's kind of a butchered down version if I'm being honest. Some story sequences have changed, there's no overworld map, positioning's not a thing in battles, there's no voice acting, obviously, and yeah, just a lot has changed. I know everyone likes to hate on this version, and yeah, while it's definitely not as good as the others, I still think it's perfectly playable and a lot of fun. The big-ass sprites and the bright colors just give it a lot of charm. In 2009 in Japan and 2010 in North America, this first game would get remade a 4th time with Lunar Silver Star Harmony on the PSP. Once again, this version is quite a bit different. The visuals have completely changed, the music has been redone, the voice actors are new.
Didn't you read the warning signs about the cranky old stinky rude genius? Well, for your information, that's me, Mice! That's right, I hate noise, can't stand interruptions, and I don't like people! Now you're trespassing, so go away!
There's a new localization. It features some improvements from the sequel, Eternal Blue, and there's even an additional short playable prologue where you play as Dragon Master Dyne and the other 4 great heroes. So yeah, there's a lot to like about this version. With all that said though, Silver Star Story Complete still is my favorite iteration of this first game. Part of it is nostalgia for sure, but I also just like the visual style more. Silver Star Harmony has more of a muted color palette in comparison, and I'm just more of a vibrant color guy.
A darkened romance. Try hard to remember a doorway to the heart beckons your mind. And now a corner of night can lift the weight from you. It's in your hands. If just you understand.
Alright, just spent about half of this video talking about the Silver Star, so now it's finally time to move on to the sequel, Eternal Blue. It was released for the Sega CD in Japan in 1994, and in 1995 in North America. Again, it was a massive hit. Commercially, it didn't sell quite as much, but critically, it was received just as well. 8s and 9s and 10s, and yeah dude, people liked it. The story takes place 1,000 years after the events of the Silver Star. You don't have to play the previous game first, but you probably should. It gets referenced a lot, and if anything, it just spoils that game to go back and play later. In the world of Lunar, there are essentially 2 worlds. There's the Silver Star, where, the events of the Silver Star obviously took place. Then there's the Blue Star. Humanity used to live here many years ago until it was rendered uninhabitable, so then at that point the goddess Althena moved everyone to the Silver Star. Eternal Blue has us playing as a young hero named, Hero and his cat-like companion Ruby, as they come across a mysterious girl who claims to hail from the Blue Star.
My name is Lucia. I have come from the Blue Star on an urgent mission.
Together, along with another colorful cast of characters they meet along the way, they set out to stop the evil Zophar from taking over the world. While it's probably a bit more of a mature story than the one in Silver Star, I'm not gonna lie, I think I do prefer the narrative in that game. I don't know, it was just a bit more, memorable to me, I guess. I think it captured that sense of adventure feel just a bit better with more interesting set pieces. With that said though, some of the most interesting locations from the Silver Star do make a comeback, like Vane, the floating magic city with a magic school academy. This is easily one of the most memorable JRPG towns of all time to me. It basically created the whole magic school trope you see so much in JRPGs. But yeah, when I think of Eternal Blue, I don't really think of the plot at all if I'm being honest. But I do think about the characters. In this regard, I think Eternal Blue is just as good as a Silver Star, if not even a little better. I do want to use footage from the other version before talking about them though, so real quick. Like the first game, Eternal Blue would get a full-on remake a few years later. And once again, the Sega Saturn version never left Japan, however, the PS1 version did. In the year 2000 to be exact. This version would be called Eternal Blue Complete. Unlike Silver Star's story, this one didn't really have any story changes, however it did feature the same gameplay changes. I didn't talk about them during that section because that part was already long enough, so here we are. The biggest one that affects how the gameplay actually, plays is how it handles random encounters. Or how it removes them, I guess I should say. Dungeons have visible enemies on screen, and the overworld map has no encounters at all. It's like they saw what Chrono Trigger did and were like, okay, this dude's spitting. I'm a really big fan of the whole overworld map, no random encounters thing. I wish more JRPGs would do this. Like yeah, fighting is fun, but sometimes exploration should be placed at the forefront, I think. Alright, going back to the characters though. Man, what a cast. Admittedly, Hiro and Ruby are kinda just like a rehash of Alex and Null. The devs were probably like, you guys liked Alex and Null from the first game, right? Well, here you go, we're doing it again. Hey, it's cool with me though. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? But that said, Hiro does have a bit more of a personality. Lucia's our female protag, and yeah, she's cool. I think I'm more partial towards Luna, to be honest, but she's still a good character. She does the whole fish out of water, adapting to human emotions trope well. The leads are fine, but it's really the other playable characters that truly shine. First, we got Ronfar, a former white mage priest turned gambling, womanizing drunk. I really love how he subverts tropes in major ways. Like, often the healers we get in JRPGs are quiet, reserved girls, maybe a princess even. Then you got Ronfar, who's basically the opposite of that in every way. It's some good stuff. Then next, we got Jean, a dancer and martial artist. Great design, great character arc. Yeah, she fucking kicks ass, literally. Then we got Lamina, the greedy heiress to the magic guild at Vane. She is probably my least favorite character, but she's not bad. Admittedly, I might be alone in that opinion though, as she was the only character to get her own manga. She is a descendant of Mia from the first game, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, the rest of the supporting cast is great too. Big Leo fanboy over here. The character portraits just do such an awesome job at bringing the characters to life. We were lucky to get these in dialogue boxes at all back then, let alone multiple expressions. Again, Grandia does this really well too, another Game Arts property. More developers really should have taken a page out of their books. Once again, the anime cutscenes here look phenomenal. There's even more than Silver Star's story. Some of them are a bit more, risque as well.
Oh, you're on the wrong side, Lucia.
If you can't shut your eyes, I'll do it for you!
Hey! Ouch!
Hiro, my guy, I know you're a horny teenager, but how many times are you gonna stare at Lucia naked? Nah, pervertedness aside though, they actually do have a really sweet and great romance. Their relationship really is the heart of the story, pun intended. The developers even confirmed this in an interview. I didn't really know when else to bring this up, but who else remembers the bromides? These were like little collectible extras added to the complete versions. They're essentially just a picture of a character in a slice of life setting, but dude, they are incredibly charming. They just capture that 90s anime aesthetic to the highest peak degree. They're almost like little time capsules of that era. Just looking at these transports me right back to like 1998. I remember browsing the website RPG Fan back in the day, and they would use a lot of these for various parts of their site. That one of Lucia opening up the blinds they would use for 404 air pages is forever ingrained in my head. Same with a lot of the other ones of the women of the cast. Yeah, whoever the artist was had some fun here. Hey, I don't blame you, buddy. Speaking of extras, Working Designs once again outdid themselves with the North American packaging. There's even more stuff here than last time. I mean, we got the usual, multiple discs, a making of CD, and a hardbound manual, but then there's also this omake box. The map here isn't quite as, movie quality, but I guess they had to cut some costs with everything else they added. Like these little mini character stand-up things. I haven't actually opened them yet, but here's what they look like online. I think my favorite inclusion here is Lucia's pendant. Look at how cool this is. In a day where digital gaming is slowly taking over, physical stuff like this is nice to reflect back on. And yeah, reflecting on Eternal Blue Complete as a complete game, it's quite the amazing follow-up. The character-driven story grew up with its audience. The characters themselves are fantastic. The gameplay has been polished up a bit. It's quite a bit longer. And the music is just as incredible. However, perhaps my favorite aspect about the game is the epilogue. I won't spoil it, but after you save the world, some character journeys are still not yet complete. The epilogue, complete with various dungeons, wraps these up. Do you have to do this? No, but trust me, you're gonna want to. To this day, very few JRPGs have ever done something like this. It's a really cool concept, I think. But yeah, while I do slightly prefer Silver Star's story, maybe because of nostalgia a bit, I don't really know, Eternal Blue is still an incredible RPG and an absolute classic in the genre. This would mark the end of the mainline games, however, we would get a couple of spin-offs. The first of which being Lunar Walking School for the Game Gear in 1996. This title never left Japan, but there is a fan translation online. Lunar Walking School takes place hundreds of years before the events of the Silver Star. It has us following the adventures of childhood friends Ellie and Lena as they leave their childhood town of Berg to enroll in a new magic academy on the island of Ian, or Ian, or I don't know, something like that. There still is an overarching plot featuring the Vile Tribe first introduced in the Silver Star. However, a lot of the game is more lighthearted, chapter-based, episodic stuff. The story is a lot smaller in scope, for sure, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives this game a very slice of life and cozy feel. Unfortunately, being on the Game Gear, the battle system is a bit of a step back. Or a lot of steps back, really. Character movements and positioning is not a thing here. It basically strips down turn-based combat to its barest, purest form. Luckily, the remake 1 year later would change this. Magic School Lunar for the Sega Saturn is a completely different experience. I mean, visually, just look at it. Going from the Game Gear to the Saturn, no surprise there. They also added a bunch of anime FMVs sprinkled in throughout the game.
これが課題の材料です。それじゃ先生、合格ってことで。失礼します。
The story has been changed in some pretty major ways too. Like in the Game Gear version, Ellie's main magical ability was her fire magic. However, in this version, it's her ability to fly. Some chapters have also been taken out and replaced with totally new ones. One of these even introduces a new species, merfolk. Given there's new chapters, that of course means there's new characters as well. Hell, we even get some new party members. And, oh yeah, speaking of that, battles go back to the classic Lunar system. There are no items though, so you recover HP and MP by defending and walking around. It's pretty interesting. Unfortunately, the encounter rate is quite abysmal if I'm being honest. It's the highest in the series by far and almost kind of makes it borderline unplayable. What makes it even more unplayable though is, well, it's never been translated to English. Not even a fan translation. Yeah, I know. It sucks. I know there has been efforts to translate it, it's just nothing has come to fruition yet. Hey, maybe with renewed interest in the series, this will change one day. Oh yeah, I should also point out that Magic School Lunar got a short little anime. It's got a rather, interesting art style. It's on YouTube, so give it a watch if you want.
娘、清流の力は持ってきたか。
メンフィス。学園長がさ、清流はないって言ってた。
Fortunately, Magic School Lunar would not be the end of the Lunar franchise. Or maybe unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. In 2005, the Nintendo DS would get cursed with Lunar Dragon Song. I say cursed because it's infamously considered to be one of the worst JRPGs of all time. Hell, I even contributed to this narrative with an April Fool's Day shitpost. Is this reputation unjustified, or is it actually earned? In a discussion in our Discord that we have for Patreon members, we talked about how games like Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter aren't actually that bad, they're just very, very different, so fans were not receptive at the time. Very understandable, I would say. Is this the case for Dragon Song 2? Has it secretly been a hidden gem this whole time? Well, after playing it for this video, I'm happy to say that it's actually pretty fucking shit still. It's really not a good game. The reputation is well earned, unfortunately. Is it the worst JRPG of all time? No. You gotta go to Japan-only releases like Ancient Roman, Power of Darkside to find contenders for those. But is it the worst JRPG from a major franchise? Maybe, actually. The only other one that comes to mind is Shin Megami Tensei Ronde, and that one never left Japan. Let's make things clear though, and not solely Game Arts' name. They had nothing to do with this game. Well, okay, the character designer is the same, but I think that's it. Instead, it was solely developed by Japan Art Media. And yeah, let's just say they made some, baffling decisions. Let's start with the worst. You gradually lose HP when running, even in towns. Once you get down to a third of your HP, you can't even run anymore, you just walk. This is so stupid. I actually get what they were going for. They wanted to make sure you couldn't just run past every enemy in dungeons, which I actually do like the thought process behind. But couldn't they have just, turned off this mechanic in towns? That would have been a simple fix. Or here's another idea, don't drain HP at all, because that sucks. Drain NP instead. This would make you have to think, okay, I can just skip past all the enemies, but I'm gonna have less magic later in the dungeon, so something to consider. I don't know, something like that, but anything but this though. Alright, so exploration sucks, but what about the battle system? Well, you can't choose who to target with an attack, so... yeah. You also have to choose if you want to receive experience or items, aka money, so... yeah. Then there's also the fact that multiple party members join at level 1, requiring a lot of grinding, so... yeah, the game just has a lot of flaws. One cool thing I guess I will say is if you clear all the encounters in an area using the experience mode, you unlock this blue chest which always contains like a really good item or a weapon or something. That is a pretty interesting feature, admittedly. However, by far the best quality about the game that does actually hold up extremely well is the music. Holy shit, this absolutely slaps. Genuinely really incredible tracks here. Don't play the game. Like for real, do not play this game. But do listen to the OST. Ironically, the best thing about Dragon Song are its songs. The story isn't terrible, I guess. It deals with the conflict between humans and the Beastmen, and the Vile Tribe play a big role. However, it also contradicts some pre-established lore, so... yeah, it's not really canonical. It supposedly takes place 1,000 years before the events of the Silver Star anyway, so it was already pretty standalone. For the sake of all Lunar fans everywhere, you can, and probably should, skip this one. Trust me, you're really not missing out. What we unfortunately did miss out on, though, is a true Lunar 3. What makes this suck even more is that Lunar 3 was confirmed to be in development at one point. This can be found in an interview in the Eternal Blue Manual. Why this never came to fruition, I'm really not sure. Regardless, I am at least happy we got the entries that we did. The first two games are absolute classics and some of the best JRPGs ever. They didn't reinvent the wheel or anything, but they were just executed to a phenomenal degree. They're just so incredibly charming. The amounts of love and passion put into them is just so evident to see. To this day, I still think no other JRPG captures the spirit of adventure quite like Lunar does. Well, okay, Grandia too. Some other RPGs like Skies of Arcadia come close, but Game Arts just really knew how to evoke that adventurous feeling of wonder into the player. I'm about to say the most boomer statement ever, but they really just don't make them like they used to. The fact that many new people will get to experience them now for the first time, well, I think that's pretty awesome. There's a magical world out there, ready to be explored. Adventure awaits, my friends.
Work your body. 人間を描かないゲームに本当の感動はない。この冬すべてのロールプレイングゲームを超えて幻想水湖伝2 12月17日発売。コナミ。
Alright, and that about wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please either consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. What's your favorite game in the series? Let us know in the comments. If anyone says Dragon Song, well, hey, if masochism is your thing, I don't judge. So there's actually sort of another Lunar game I thought about bringing up earlier. Well, not really a game I guess, but more like a collection of software applications. It was called All the Lunar Hyper Applications and was only available in Japan and cannot be accessed today. I don't think any footage of it even exists other than these screenshots courtesy of lunar-net.com. There was a card game I guess, but a lot of it was just voice clips and galleries and stuff like that. Still a pretty cool relic of the past though. Also, shout out to this website. If you ever want to learn anything about Lunar, come here. Not only is it super informational, but it also just oozes those early 2000s internet vibes. Man, I miss those times. As always, just want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters, and of course an extra special shout out to our top patrons, Chris Carnaccio, Derek Drost, Jesse Spencer, Jay Shaw Drums, Jump Rock, and Nathan Lowry. All of your generosity and support is very much appreciated. Other than that, thanks again for watching everyone and hope you have an awesome day. This is Corbin from Gaming Productions. Until next time.